a serious crisis to go to waste.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues. Here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David and Gretchen will be taking a look at Trump's election and its aftermath. Because this is our first podcast since leaving terrestrial radio, we don't have a telephone line installed yet, but go to Facebook, like our page on Target Radio, and ask a question or make a comment there.
And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's time for David's Rant of the Week.
So, I've learned a lot about myself during this election cycle. I learned I'm a xenophobic, misogynistic white boy. At first, I thought that was the title of a Bob Dylan song, but no, it's me. Well, it's true according to roaming bands of marauders who are yet again stealing television sets and kicking the snot out of innocent bystanders. Everyone knows there is a total societal collapse and it is the end of the world, meaning government checks may be delayed as the civil servants shed their civility and go get a new 80-inch flat-panel TV, compliments of the Clinton, Obama, Sharpton, and Jackson cartel. I've learned that I'm a dangerous, super gun-owning, flyover state, homegrown terrorist. I'm dangerous, a menace to society. My guns should be confiscated. I should undergo psychiatric evaluation, be put in a concentration camp, preferably castrated. Maybe that last part is because the Stateville Penitentiary Men's Glee Club needs a soprano, the vocal type, not the Italian mob type. I learned all this about myself while sitting in my recliner in front of the fireplace watching the peaceful assemblies in Chicago and other cities on the news. One young hysterical woman thought all white people should be exterminated, which I found somewhat odd considering she was white and so was Hillary Clinton. Perhaps she's Rachel Dolezal's replacement. Some of the more astute paid-to-talk crowd, astute enough to grasp the concept that kicking the snot out of some white guy might be misconstrued as a hate crime, backed off on pounding people and took up pounding the public TV news programming. CNN's uber-socialist commentator Van Jones said the reason for Clinton's defeat was a white lash against a changing country, a white lash against a black president. The media, who were interviewing society's brave new cultural warriors, was pretty much throwing chunks of red meat at them. The words stolen election and destroying our democracy were popular. It was yet another thing I found rather odd, considering 2 days prior to those very same media mouths were wagging their fingers at the thought that Trump supporters would challenge the legitimacy of the election. They openly mocked the notion that voter fraud existed. Despite the 11 states investigating widespread voter fraud that they'd already discovered. Astoundingly, within hours of Trump being declared the winner, vast mobs of concerned citizens took to the streets in protest. Oddly, most of them had regional accents from everywhere in the country but where the protests were being held. Then someone took pictures of a line of out-of-state buses parked blocks away, out of sight. Perhaps tourists on a shopping spree. Add to the mix liberal commentator James Carville's warning that a Donald Trump presidency would signal the end of everything liberals have worked for. Most recently, it was discovered that a couple pillars of the Fourth Estate were tweeting they hoped Donald Trump would be assassinated, while a dim bulb counterpart likened Trump's rise in status was just like Nazi Germany. So to recap, while puffing on my pipe and sitting quietly in my recliner in front of the fireplace watching the news on TV, I learned I'm the dangerous menace to society that needs to be eradicated off the face of the earth. I received this lesson from lying, incendiary journalists and rioting mobs kicking an innocent civilian curled up in a fetal ball on the ground. These people, who are certifiably mentally ill, want a civil war. So, A mob of anti-gun sociopathic nutballs want to take on about 400 million gun owners. That, ladies and gentlemen, is idiotic enough to write up the paperwork and have them committed. And that, Gretchen, is my first rant for the week on the internet.
Well, you've been on the internet for years.
Okay, let me rephrase that. That's my first rant of the week on our new show, which is called the same thing as the old show, which is now on the internet, but it used to be on the internet, but we still are.
But now we're not in an award-winning studio. Now we're in your dining room.
It's an award-winning dining room.
It is. That's true.
It's, I don't know what the award would be for, but I think it's an award-winning dining room. This is going to be interesting.
I've given it awards for gluttony.
That's because you've eaten here before and you know.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
He puts on a true Italian spread. Like, he just keeps trotting out more food. I'm like, we're already like laying on the floor holding our bellies and groaning, and he's like, oh, and I have fruit and cheese.
I grew up in an Italian family, and that's how we. I don't notice you not eating, by the way, when we do that.
Oh no, I do until I'm laying on the floor holding my belly and groaning. Yes.
Well, that's it's part of the game. You notice on Facebook, we'll get down to some serious stuff here in a minute, but you notice on Facebook, I did have a sort of lowering expectation thing about this show.
Well, yeah, if you set the bar nice and low, then you're, hopefully pleasantly surprised.
You're relatively safe if you set the bar low because, unless you do the limbo, how much lower can you go?
Well, right.
Yeah.
I always, I don't know if people know this, but people who are Facebook friends with me personally, I always put up a message that says, it's almost time for On Target Radio. I usually do it about 8:30, so I did it about 7:30. And then just a few minutes before we went on, I said, come watch the train wreck in slow motion.
It's nice to have your moral support. We don't even know if anybody's listening.
No, actually, I do, because people are texting me like crazy.
Seriously?
The people who have our cell phone numbers have an advantage. I've already gotten texts from Jim, George, and my mom.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Do we know, actually, can we not tell? Or is it so depressing that we don't want to know? Don't they have a thing on YouTube that says there are 1.5 people listening to this?
I don't know right now.
That's fine.
I can check it.
It's not a problem. It's just part of the, I don't know, litany of things that we don't know. We were actually still trying to make this work, 1 minute before we punched go.
Which is why we were like 1.5 minutes late.
That's true. But
we have 7 on YouTube right now.
This is enormous. This is the big thing. 7. What happened to the other 10,000 people that used to listen to us?
Well, they didn't know.
They bailed on us, didn't they?
They didn't know. Well, and then there's the people like my dad who don't have a computer. He's a bit of a Luddite for an electrical engineer.
And a guy that has every conceivable power tool on the planet.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's Tim Allen. He's not he's not Eric Allen.
That's interesting. I didn't know he didn't have a computer.
No.
Well, that's a shame because
I took mine away.
Now there's something we need: blast filters.
Not a bad idea.
On the microphones.
Mostly for you. I always took mine off.
Yeah, but every time I breathe, it goes with this sort of noise. And we, and sitting here looking at the two of us, going, "What am I doing here?" Is Eric. Eric's a good friend, and Eric's the guy you've heard me talk about on the show before. You may not know this. I have talked about you on the show. Eric is the guy who every time you say something, he's on the Aurora Sportsman's Club board. You go like, I wonder what color the cows are in Guatemala, and Eric goes, oh, well, they're, he's just like walking encyclopedia. Until you get to 60 seconds before you go on the air, and then he goes, oh my God, what's happening here?
No, he actually handled it really well. I was actually really impressed.
Yeah, it's going okay.
I mean, we've been doing something similar for, the better part of 4 years. So, 3.5 years for me, 4 years for you. And so, this is his first time. He jumped into this 2 days ago. So.
And I will tell you something. It was 2 days ago, wasn't it? This is Sunday, Saturday, Friday night. Wasn't it Friday night?
Yeah, it was Friday night.
And we had no idea it was going to work.
No.
None at all. You were here late. We were here probably 4 hours just trying to figure out how to make this stuff work.
But I think we got it going to an extent, so.
If we still have people listening, then it's not dead air. We apparently have something going What we need is a big countdown clock because I have to keep looking over at the thing. And we've got a couple more minutes to the segment. See, it goes by fast. It goes by fast. And ultimately, I think we're going to do a 2-hour show, but it'll be easier to do a 1-hour show now because we have no idea what we're doing.
Yes, especially because you came in
7:30.
7:35,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I have commercials to plug in.
I did fail to mention that, didn't I?
I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
And that will be interesting because when we go to a break, and they won't be these nice luxurious breaks like they were on the radio, but when we go to break, we actually have a couple of video commercials, which Eric didn't know about until I came in the door, and we had to suddenly figure out how to pump video through. So if you see a black screen, he didn't know how.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what
But
happens.
we do want to cover the election. We, like I always say, we take our subjects seriously, not ourselves. But we do want to cover the election because it is, in fact, a historic event. It's and everything that's going on around it is very interesting, I think. So you've read all the stuff, right?
I have. I think it's funny, and you called it actually a few days before the election, that Michael Moore basically predicted what happened on election night, and I think that the fact that the anchors on the mainstream media were completely flat-footed on it was really priceless. That was actually like the best part of the whole night. We were watching silent TV, so we didn't see all of
At
it,
the
but
gathering, yeah.
right. But then I'm watching the Today Show the next morning, and all of their reactions. They were just they were so stunned.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing I find most interesting is Hillary Clinton and Podesta are blaming everybody for this but Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And I find that very interesting. The Attorney General it's her fault. It's the FBI director's fault. It's everybody's fault, except the one person that no one wanted to be president of the United States.
Well, right, exactly. The one person that was not really that attractive to vote for.
Yeah, and so I just find that whole thing is very interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Comey's fault. It's not. It has nothing to do with Hillary being a lying sack of crap.
No, couldn't possibly be that. Yeah. When we come back, which will be very quick because our breaks aren't very long, but when we come back, we know why Hillary didn't go on to
make a concession speech.
Make a concession speech. We have a thing on that, and we find it very interesting. So we're going to take a little break. We don't have the rising music in our headphones, do we?
Right.
You know what we should have done before we left the studio? We should
What?
have stolen everything and just brought it with us. Just when they go in the next day, it's like an empty room.
The monitors, the
Yeah,
microphone.
yeah.
Well, I'm not sad to see those microphones go.
Well, the microphones, there may have been issues with the microphones, but certainly all the computer gear and the software, we should have just walked off with it all. I joke. They were always very good to me.
Yes, they were very
They were
nice.
very good people. It's just a very expensive proposition. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a little bit of a break. Our bumpers are a little short because I've been jury rigging them, but we'll come out with something a little better hopefully by next week.
David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
And we're back with more On Target Radio, and we don't have a station to announce that we're back from. It is what it is. Which, by the way, speaking of that, I brought this up to you, and you were a little not exactly warm with the idea, but I still like it. I thought more about this. We'll have to get a website and a URL. And my suggestion was, because what we would like to be able to do is get this organized well enough to set it up, and then have other people do shows too, that we would organize. I like the for a station title, The Fifth Estate. Now you sort of see, you're looking at me that way again.
Right.
But here's my thinking.
That's my job.
Exactly. Right. The first estate is the president. The second one is the legislature. The third is the Supreme Court. The fourth estate was supposed to be the watchdogs of those three, and that's the press.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all know how that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
The press need to be watched. Hence, the fifth estate.
Okay.
If you're watching this show or listening to it or whatever, and you have any way of communicating, I'm not sure you can, tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think maybe we should have like a contest or a focus group or something.
Yeah, because I think it's, I really do. I think it's a good idea. The Fifth Estate is.
But like you said, there's already like 5 websites with the same name, so you're gonna have to come up with some like weird permutation.
Well, it would be like the Fifth Estate Gumbaga or something, or I'm not quite sure what, some strange thing. But anyway, so we did say when we come back that we're going to talk about Hillary and not making her speech.
Yes.
And I find this kind of interesting because I think of Hillary as the Iron Maiden.
Well, yeah.
And I remember in the first debate particularly, I remember looking at her face with that painted-on smile and the seething rage that you could see beneath it, and fear, because nothing she threw at Trump stuck. He didn't care.
Right.
She'd say more and more horrible things, and he just literally didn't care, and that scared her because everybody else, it's like the great sea
They scurry.
party.
Yeah. Everyone else scurries in her wake.
Exactly. So it turns out the reason Podesta went on stage is because she was like sobbing.
Right. She completely lost it. I don't know. There's no citation on here, so I don't know where this article came from. But
It did not come from the Boston.
The Boston Times.
The Boston Times.
This says it's an unprecedented move for a losing presidential candidate. So apparently, it's never happened before. Well, at least since we've had television, it's never happened that they haven't made some kind of a concession speech. And I kind of assumed as much, and that she was probably upset, unable to compose herself, and it was very late at night, and so I've also been saying, I think it's very interesting that if it had been anyone other than Trump, they would have called the election. The media would have called the election hours earlier, but they didn't do it until like 1:45 p.m. I mean, or a.m. I mean, it was. I don't know. They might have called it a little bit before that, but then he came out and made a speech at like 1:45 in the morning, and I thought that was very very interesting, because if it had been anyone else, they would have called it.
You bet.
At like 10 p.m.
And you notice, like CNN was dragging their feet on the electoral count.
Yeah,
Fox.
They kept saying like these states are too close to call, and Fox already had called half of them.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I found very interesting was the Chicago Tribune. So I understand that the Wednesday morning Chicago Tribune, they put that book to bed before. I mean, there's no way that they didn't know, and that
right,
was fine.
I mean, they couldn't hold it until
and they
2
said
a.m.
too close to call, and that's fair. That's a fair thing to say. But the next day, the Thursday morning Tribune never had a headline "Trump won." Mm-hmm. They would not put that in the newspaper. I forget exactly what it said.
I was going to say, what did it say?
I forget exactly. It's in there, but it was something like, I don't know, change of power, whatever the heck it was, some innocuous thing that alluded to the fact that there was a president of the United States, but his name wasn't in it. Yeah, his name wasn't in it. They're that in the bag. But the thing with Hillary is she was totally shocked by it. I mean, she was absolutely, she knew she was going to win. There was no question in her mind whatsoever that she was going to win. And I just think it's absolutely hysterical that all of the press, and her in particular, say, you know, Donald said he won't know if he'll accept it and all that kind of stuff. And you're rattling the very foundation of democracy by not accepting the outcome. And exactly that is
Right.
what they do when Trump is declared the winner.
It's like I've always said, they're lousy with double standards.
They really are. And, you know, all of a sudden there's riots. And like I said in my rant, they had riots in Chicago. They had them in a bunch of cities. And somebody actually found this long line of out-of-state buses that were parked a bunch of blocks away. They bust them in.
Right. Right, yeah. Freedom Outpost said that this guy said he predicted these riots and protests all the way back in March, that this was going to happen. And he's saying that he basically said the same thing, that in the previous protests that have happened the last couple of years, we have proof that Soros was funding them. And we're simply waiting for that proof to come out about these as well. We imagine that it won't be long now.
No. Julian Assange, did you ever give him back his internet?
I think so.
If so, it'll be a matter of hours before it comes out. And I find that also very interesting, too, as a kind of a side note. The people who keep saying that the press has to, have, this is the people you can trust, the people, they try and silence the people who disagree with them, and they're pretty good at it. You look at Twitter, they were controlling what was coming and what was going. So too was Facebook. They were controlling what you could put and what you couldn't put. They pull every dirty trick they can.
Right. Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, especially with like Twitter and Facebook, it's billed, it's marketed as
An open forum.
This medium belongs to you. It is whatever you make it. But then they're behind the scenes, pulling the strings. They're like the Wizard of Oz back there. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, And that's another thing this guy from Freedom Outpost says, is that the media had better be on notice that it's time for them to get honest and do it quick, or else. And I agree. I don't see any evidence of that. I don't see, the 2 days after the election, the Today Show is still, is still talking about Hillary.
Slicing and dicing it.
Right. They're still trying to find a way to make Hillary relevant. It's like, okay, she really isn't relevant anymore, is she?
She will be in orange.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
we've seen her in orange. We know it's a good color for her. So. She's going to rock that jumpsuit.
one of those $20,000 hop sack suits that she gets from, who was the designer? I don't remember.
It was some European dude.
Yeah, some European dude. My prediction is she ain't going to jail.
Well, I'd like to stay optimistic.
I know you do. Yeah. Yeah, it's the German in you, the optimistic.
No, actually, I'm naturally a pessimist, but when it comes to Hillary
No.
going to prison, I want to stay optimistic.
Yeah. Well, here's two avenues. You can almost guarantee that Obama will pardon her. But let's say he doesn't. I think Trump will. I think Trump just won't press. And I think that because he made a very specific speech about we have to put this all behind us, we have to work together. And then did you see he was saying nice stuff about Hillary Clinton? They were making nice.
Well, he has to do that.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. He does. You're right. He's got to, it's over. The fight's over. Now we got to make up, at least in front of the cameras. I think he's going to give her a pass.
We'll see.
I hope he taps Trey Gowdy.
Yeah. I want him to be the Attorney General, to be honest with you. He used to be a litigator, and I think he'd be really good at it.
There was some talk about Chris Christie. Now, I don't know what happened with Chris Christie, because suddenly...
Yeah, he got demoted.
Yeah, he got dropped off the team.
No. He's like the number 2 on the team now.
Well, but I'm saying, when I say dropped off the team, I mean he was the guy
He was
heading
in
the
charge.
transition.
Yeah,
right.
and he put Pence in charge, and Christie's now like number 2 with Giuliani.
Yeah, I think they put his office in a McDonald's, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he probably asked for that.
He and Bill Clinton.
Either that or
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. That would work fine. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out. That whole thing. A lot of people on the internet have been saying, Trey Gowdy for Attorney General, and I thought Alan West for Secretary of Defense.
That would be good.
I've heard a different name floated. I forget now who it
No,
was.
I haven't.
Yeah, it was somebody.
I haven't been keeping up on that.
Yeah, somebody kind of surprised me. I can't remember.
Somebody was saying Rudy Giuliani for
I think that was it.
Attorney General.
No, not Attorney General.
Oh, for
Secretary of Defense.
Defense. Well, I was saying he should be DHS. I think he would be really good at DHS because Homeland
Well,
Security.
that's true. Yeah,
Because I mean, he really cleaned up New York City, and he's got a lot of experience, especially with 9/11. He's got a lot of experience with Port Authority and all that sort of thing. So, I think he'd be really good for DHS.
yeah, probably would.
I
He's,
think I don't know if you want to talk about it now or if you want to wait until the next segment, but I think we should talk about the Supreme Court.
we can do that. We'll talk about it when we come back. Because the one thing I want to at the end here, I just think I'm sorry, but I just like it. You remember Dewey Wins, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only from my history books. Let me clarify.
Well, wait a second. If you're looking at me like I actually remember it, it was Dewey and Truman.
Right.
Yeah. And so
I'm assuming you're right. I'm agreeing with you because I don't know.
I think it was Truman. If Ronkowski's listening, we'll get a phone. Oh, he can't. He can't call. Oh, he can call me on a cell phone.
Well, I was saying he has our phone numbers.
That's right. Yeah. Newsweek printed 125,000 copies of the magazine Madam President Hillary Clinton.
Now, were all of those shipped to newsstands or just some of them? Oh no, it does say 125,000 were actually shipped.
Newsstands, yeah, they shipped them out. Commemorative edition.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was actually thinking maybe if they're not super expensive, I could get one for my friend Amy.
Make
for
her feel
like
better.
For a gift, yeah.
Make her feel better.
For
yeah.
like a keepsake.
Probably not. Somebody is eating those copies of the magazine. Yeah.
Oh no, those are gold. Those are eBay gold.
Well, that's true. Republicans will buy those by the ton.
Oh, lots of people would.
Yeah.
Maybe only Republicans.
Well, Republicans will certainly buy it because they'll put it up on the wall with a big arrow going, big finger in the middle of it. All right, well, we're going to take another brief break. We won't be gone too long. We have another, no, we don't. We have a regular good old-fashioned commercial. It's the next one. Right? Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's the Aurora Sportsman's Club.
What do I know? I thought that was an audio. Okay.
It says video.
Okay, I'll go away now.
concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
So, this is the learning curve. It's a learning curve, right, Gretchen?
Yes.
It's a learning curve. We've learned some important things so far. We've learned that we don't want to go Wi-Fi. Our old engineer from the station has sent us a note, and he said, "You people are idiots."
He's texting us with running commentary of what we're doing wrong.
So I tried. We left the station to escape it, and he's still doing it here, running commentary in my home. Yeah,
Well, no, actually, he's being very helpful.
I know. I'm just making fun.
Thank you, George.
But so
I am glad, however, that he no longer has a button with
Yeah.
sound effects at
Yeah,
his
yeah.
disposal.
Beep, bop,
That
boop.
is
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, when you're paying $300 an hour or $600 an hour, you just don't want the sound effects. But
No.
so we're gonna. Eric has already figured out how to deal with it, right?
Yes, I have.
And we're gonna do what?
We're going to get a faster computer, and we're not going to use Wi-Fi.
See how simple that is? Where are we getting the money for that?
I don't know.
There we go. Well,
We'll
that's
see.
going to be a.
I'm going to play
Oh,
the
I-
lottery tonight, and we'll see what happens.
We can use my computer. You've got like 10 computers. I'm sure it's not going to cost anything.
If we put them in line in series, will that speed them up?
We could give it a try.
It's okay.
George just texted me. He said, "You cannot escape me."
That's unfortunately that's true. He's probably out front with a rifle waiting for me to come outside. So we're back, and we were going to talk about something, and I don't remember what. After we
Supreme
went through
Court.
the slow-mo commercial here.
We could either talk about
the Supreme Court.
who he actually has said he will nominate to the Supreme Court, or who he should.
Oh, now wait a
nominate to
minute!
the
I've
Supreme
missed this. When did he say who he was thinking
Court. He hasn't. I just thought maybe somebody had some intel.
of? You said we could talk about who he said he was going to. I'm going, okay.
Well, he said he was going to go through the society. Was that society the Federalist Society?
Okay, good. So that ended that conversation.
Because you don't know what that is.
No, I know what the Federalist Society is, but the point is, okay, fine. What are you going to say? They don't have names. Who would you put on the Supreme Court?
I like a Ted Cruz. Although somebody said on Facebook, and I think it's a cogent point that it's a little soon. We need to need to cool him off a little bit.
Yeah, and besides which, well, I was going to say I doubt he'll put anybody on the Supreme Court the first day, but he very well may.
Yeah,
On the first day, put
yeah.
forward some candidates. The interesting thing about this election is it was a sweep.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the House, we have the Senate. Now the Senate's razor thin.
right.
But we have the House, we have the Senate, and we got the presidency. We don't have the press, so we never know what we'll hear. But yeah, there are a number of people who would be interesting on the Supreme Court, and frankly, Trey Gowdy would be interesting on the Supreme Court too. But I'd rather see him as an Attorney General.
Yeah, I would rather see him litigate stuff.
Yeah, and he loves doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Not Rubio. I can't picture him. He's.
I don't even know if he's a lawyer. Is he even a lawyer?
You don't technically have to be a lawyer to be on the Supreme Court.
Oh, really?
No.
Didn't know that.
Well, it's an appointment. You go, Bob, I've been in the Supreme Court. Make great hot dogs. You know, put him on the Supreme Court. Why not? Anybody can replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg and do a better job if you're a conservative.
That's true.
You know, get some really nice Cuban guy out of Miami who sells whatever he sells out of a vendor. They're conservative as hell. You know, I don't know. We don't have a cough button. You know that.
I did the best I could.
So, okay, what's next? What's next on our lineup here?
Oh, I'm in charge. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you are. I was teaching all day.
Well, you did mention this in your rant, but I think we could circle back around. CNN commentator Van Jones
Oh, yeah.
and his newly created word, white lash,
White lash, yes.
which you know how I love made-up words.
It nettles you.
I'm an editor. It
Yeah,
bothers me.
It
yeah.
does.
He says, apparently on election night at some point, he said, "We've talked about race. We've talked about everything but race tonight. This was a white lash. This was a white lash about a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes. And Donald Trump has responsibility tonight to come out and reassure people that he is going to be the president of all the people who he insulted and offended and brushed aside. We don't want to feel that someone has been elected by throwing away some of us to appeal more deeply to others. Basket of deplorables, anyone?
You know, here's the thing. First of all, they take out of context what the man said, particularly about Mexicans crossing the border.
Yes.
He never, ever said anything about mainstream Mexican people coming to this country.
It was never about legal immigration.
Exactly.
It was always about illegal immigration.
And what he said was factual. You can ask anybody that lives on the border along the Rio Grande.
Right.
They come in, they rape people.
Or any ICE officer.
Right. There's rapes, there's murders, it's just factual.
And,
I'm sorry.
And this is like 10 years ago, there are sheriffs in the counties of southern Texas that border the Rio Grande that have told their people, we literally don't have the manpower to protect every single person. And so we expect you to be armed and to defend yourselves to a large degree, because we simply can't, especially these rural people, they have big ranches and things. It's like they're kind of on their own, and the sheriffs have encouraged them to be self-sufficient as far as defense.
And those Texans down there, they're like, okay, I can do that.
They're like, oh, shucks, if I have to.
Yeah, I can do that. Bobby Joe, get that there blind and let's set her up on the Rio Grande.
I like when I went to Texas for the first time, I didn't know. I never saw this before, but when I went to Texas for the first time, I saw like the T-shirts and things that say, "We don't dial 911."
Yeah. I guess the thing that disturbs me is they're continuously looking for somebody to blame. I'm, white guys. All white guys are bad. We hate black people. I would vote for Condoleezza Rice in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean,
I wouldn't even hesitate to vote for her.
We should spend an entire segment on all the black people we would vote for.
Exactly. It's total nonsense. But they're in the hate business. They always talk about Republicans are in the hate business. Here's our hate business. Here's the deal. Get an education, get a job. We'll all hang out together and have beers. Okay? How many people do we know of color who are friends of ours?
Oh, too many to count.
Everybody gets along. And I've said this many times. It isn't about color. It's not about religion, with one or two exceptions. It's about values.
But it's actually not about religion.
Well, if you're a militant Muslim,
No, but it's not so much about their religion. It's about the way that they act.
Actually, that you are right. Because
it's about their behavior.
Right. You are right. That is true. Because I have friends who are Muslim who are very, very good friends. But it's about your social values. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your religion is. If you have the same essential social values that I do, you believe in this country, you believe in if I work, I get ahead. I don't care who we are. We can all get along. If you look at, and here's the other interesting thing. If you look at the people that initially were running in the primary for president on the two sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were the ones that had diversity.
Right. Republicans are the ones that had women, they had people of color, they had all these different people running. And what do they have on the Democratic side?
Old white guys and one old white woman.
And one old white broad. Yeah, that was it. And they talk about Republicans are so close-minded and they don't believe in diversity.
Right, exactly.
And they've sold
the other thing too, I mean, you get if you actually look at the qualifications of those people, if you look beyond their skin color and their genitalia, our people who were up on that stage, the 16 or however many candidates we had on those debate stages, our people were almost all of them very highly qualified.
We had doctors.
Ben Carson is an accomplished retired brain surgeon. We've got Carly Fiorina, who's been the CEO of major corporations and turnarounds and things. And then on their side, the only woman, the only diversity on that stage, she basically has no qualifications. And people have asked her, what do you consider your greatest accomplishment? Oh, I'm glad you asked that. And then she just obfuscates for like a whole like a 2-paragraph run-on sentence, and she never actually says anything.
I'm proudest of my ability to have been able to do what I did when I done it, and when you get to the end of it, She didn't say anything.
Yeah, there was actually no substance there.
Which is pretty much the Democratic Party.
Right. It was like, okay, to people on Facebook, it's like, okay, name one thing that Hillary's done. I mean, literally, she was a horrible Secretary of State. She was a horrible senator. Almost, the funny thing about her being a senator for one term is that now we have video of her coming out and like saying, oh, I think that marriage is between one man and one woman, and I think that, I can't remember what the other one is, and then, now that she's running for president, now she's gone like 180 the other way, and, she's completely reversed her positions, but we have video of her saying these things. It's so priceless.
I remember we got off the airplane and there was going to be some sort of little ceremony, but they told us to run to our cars because there was sniper fire.
Yeah, we had to run to the SUVs, yeah.
See, the woman is a pathological liar because when she got off that airplane, the entire press corps was there videoing her.
Mm-hmm.
So no one could, in their wildest imagination, think that they could lie about that and get away with it because you had the whole press corps there videoing it.
Right.
I think she's truly pathological. I think she gets this thing in her head and she actually believes it.
I think she might be. I think it's entirely possible.
And people are whining about she didn't win. And,
Right, like I said, it has nothing to do with her being a lying sack of crap.
Can we say that on the show? George isn't here. We can say whatever we want.
Well, we can technically say whatever we want because it's the internet, but I've been instructed to stick to the previous standard.
Well, we'd like to. No, not the previous one, because I got booted for some relatively painless thing that I said.
Should I say what you said?
Probably not.
I feel like you want to be able to say, fill in the blank. I think you probably shouldn't say that anyway.
You may be right. I'm not sure. But
Now, granted, it was a string of racial epithets, so it fit in with the other racial epithets.
And look, when I was a kid, I was the Dago, or the Wop. Art was this is really funny. Art was the Kraut, which is funny because he wasn't German, he was Hungarian. But there's no bad word for Hungarians.
No.
But people just sort of ignore them, I mean, who knows? There wasn't a bad word.
They're too small, I think.
So anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I don't know what we're going to do, but it'll be the last segment, and we'll do something.
We'll pull something out of our you-know-where, because we always do.
We can't say that word either, can we? Of course,
No.
the internet, we can say anything we want.
Well, we could say but. That's no fun.
For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport for personal protection and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you. ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you.
Aurora Sportsman's Club, the Midwest's premier family shooting sports club, is open for membership. Situated over 250 acres in Waterman, Illinois, the Aurora Sportsman's Club has a quarter-mile of pistol and rifle ranges from 50 foot to 600 yards, with draw from holster, steel target, and moving and shooting privileges. Shotgun shooters will find 3 trap fields, 2 skeet fields, 5 stand, and a very challenging Midwest native prairie sporting clay course. Aurora Sportsman's Club also offers 3D archery and a small golf driving range. The club features robust educational and sport shooting opportunities, including the Civilian Marksmanship Program, Hunter Education, IDPA competition, action shooting sports, black powder, bullseye shooting, NRA training classes, and much more. For more information, visit aurorasc.org or call 815-264-9000, extension 44. That's 815-264-9000, extension 44. The Aurora Sportsman's Club, a family-friendly private membership shooting sports club for over 60 years. 815-264-9000, extension 44.
Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
Over a half century ago, a respected firearms store opened. It started as a hobby for Mike Schrenk and now has served generations of customers. Schrenk's Smoke and Gun retains a family atmosphere and now carries the largest selection of new, used, and consignment firearms in Lake County. From pistols, rifles, and shotguns to hard-to-find calibers, collectibles, and older functioning hunting rifles, you'll also find full gunsmith services from simple detail cleaning to complete rebuilds. Whether you're thinking about your first firearm in a FOID card or looking to add to your collection, visit Schrank Smoke & Gun. If you have a firearm to sell, their recent sale was so successful they need your firearms. And if you love cigars, you'll find your favorites in Schrank's humidors, along with a broad selection of pipes and tobacco. Visit smoke, gun.org, or call 847-662-4034. Schrank Smoke & Gun in Waukegan, your family-owned gun store since 1964. That's 847-662-4034.
Actually, at this moment, I could see a little value if George were here, because he's got the applause thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's a guy who's you've never read copy before. You can talk into the microphone. It's okay.
No, I have not.
Okay. And that's not bad.
It was a relatively good job.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you.
this is good. We may beat you into an announcer engineer, after all. So he knows soft drink machines, and he knows everything about communications and IT equipment. I don't
And
know.
of course, he knows guns
And
because
he knows guns.
we know him from the Aurora Sportsman's Club.
Exactly. He's on the board. So
Thank you.
He's definitely multi-talented.
periodically he looks up at me with a look in his eyes like a lone wolf, thinking, I want to kill somebody here. I'm just not sure who.
Like,
So
how do I get out of here?
yeah, well, you don't. It's it. You're stuck. Interesting story.
So yeah, I'm sure almost everyone in the Chicago area has seen, because this actually did happen in Chicago. The apparently there was a minor traffic incident, and then a bunch of black people pulled a white guy out of his car and started beating the crap out of him. And they were saying, what were they saying? They were saying, you voted for Trump, you got to pay for that, bleep. But I assumed that they were saying that because he had like a Trump sticker on his car or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
And but actually, there's apparently no proof that they know that he voted for Trump. They were just
They
Judge-
just pulled the guy out of the car.
judging by the fact that he's white. They're assuming that he voted for Trump.
So does that mean Hillary voted for Trump? She's white.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, then why are the black people voting for Hillary? Because last time I checked, she wasn't black.
This is pretty screwed up.
Well, and, it's so maddening because they're always calling us racist. It's
Right.
like, no, I'm pretty sure it's you.
Did you? I don't remember. Did I see you? Were you at that riot that was being held in Chicago at Stealing the TV? Oh wait, no, that wasn't Republicans. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that was only, well, and I would normally say it was disgruntled millennials that have nothing better to do, and their schools are all letting them slide on midterms because they're too distraught to possibly be able to take a test. But actually, I've seen a couple of interviews on the local NBC News of protesters who are actually apparently adults, and they look like people who would have jobs. Now, I don't know whether they actually do have jobs.
They did. They were getting paid to be there.
Well, yeah, they may have Soros jobs, but yeah, I mean, they seemed. And there was one guy, I really liked what he said. He said, "No, of course it's not a rational response." And I mean, he looked like he was probably in his early 50s, and he's like, "No, of course it's not a rational response. I just feel like I have to do something." And I thought, well, at least he's being honest.
The comedians have taken to the stage now, and they're not being funny. They are weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is insanity. Everybody, all the Hollywood people, they're all just going off the deep end on this stuff, and they're talking about it's the end of society. It's the democratic system has failed. Our country will never. There was a thing in yesterday's paper, Tribune, where a columnist, fairly well-known columnist, is talking about how no country will ever look at us again and see legitimacy, how we have devolved, how we're going to be turned to a third world nation, blah, blah, blah. what are these people?
I love how they
Smoking.
never exaggerate. There's no hyperbole there.
It's astounding that they write this stuff. None of these liberal hacks say anything about 4 people killed in Benghazi because she turned her back on him. They don't say anything about her chronic lying on everything possible. They don't say anything about that really slick, well thought out, send money to our nonprofit in Canada and we'll transfer it to our nonprofit here, and we'll give, how many billions of dollars is it? Several billions of dollars now in this thing, right? Isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And
the Clinton Foundation makes billions a year.
Yeah. And the guy who actually runs the foundation, when he was criticized about it, goes, we help people, we feed people. They spent 10% of
Right.
what the money
Of,
they'd made.
like $1 billion, right?
Yeah. And they go, well, we feed people. What? Candy bars?
Right, and most of it's spent on like private plane rides and
Exactly.
expensive hotel suites and things like that.
None of that stuff.
Necessary administrative expenses.
Yeah. Kind of, it was a little overhead. Apparently, Chelsea's on salary doing something. I don't know what.
Sure.
Probably not going to work is what they pay her to do.
Yeah, probably.
No talk about any of that stuff. The reason she lost is because I'm a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
or
not even
because
true.
Comey interfered, or because the president didn't support her enough, or because Uma Abedin and Anthony Weiner have marital problems.
And the only thing that really does bother me about that, because you assume they're a bunch of idiots and that's what they're going to do. What does bother me about that is they haven't learned a lesson.
Right.
They don't get it. They're more convinced than ever that we're screwed up and that they're right.
Right.
And in no small part, and not for a moment would I suggest that gun people made all the difference, but in no small part the fact that hundreds of millions of gun owners said this is enough.
That's actually my action items, to be honest with you.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
The twisting of arms on the Electoral College, I think, could be heard. The screaming could be heard halfway across the country, because people who are in the Electoral College are very well known in their state. They're they're high up there, and you look at the map. Most of them are red states, okay. And I guarantee you that in Texas and in Wyoming and Idaho and those places, they're going up to that guy and they're grabbing by the arm and go, "You want to live through this, son?" And that's I'm convinced that's how the Electoral College. Because you know what, Trump really did very little stump work. He didn't do a whole lot of traveling to a bunch of different cities. He did some.
Oh, he did quite a bit, especially once he won the nomination. I mean,
but
they said like he really spent like $0 on ad buys.
Yeah.
Leading up to the primary,
they gave it to him for free.
He was totally skating on free publicity.
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing.
Well, and here's the thing about that. This is a pretty smart guy. The liberals like to talk about what a cretin he is. This is a pretty smart guy. I think a lot of what he said, the really kind of incendiary things, he did that because he knew he would get coverage.
Oh, he was pushing buttons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
And he did. He got way more press coverage.
Oh, yeah.
And Hillary Clinton would disappear for a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, just vanish.
Probably because of her health problems.
Perhaps. That could be true.
I am curious to eventually find out what exactly is wrong with her.
The general consensus of opinion is it's Parkinson's.
Well,
from
and
the symptoms.
It seems likely,
Yeah,
but there's any number of things that I think could eventually shake out. Possibly MS or You
have action items?
I did.
We're almost out of time.
I brought action items. Oh, you want them now?
Time to do them.
Okay.
I don't have a bumper for that.
You don't have a bumper?
No.
You had a bumper for yourself and no bumper for me?
Okay, that's true. I'm guilty. Read them.
Okay, seriously. Okay, I want everyone to write us Facebook emails of indignation. Okay. From the ISRA, as deplorable gun owners, we all woke on Wednesday morning and breathed a sigh of relief. I watched as astonished election night news anchors saw Florida, North Carolina, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and many other states slip into the Trump column. And what did all these states have in common? Millions of gun owners who were committed to saving the Second Amendment. Gun owners who love the Second Amendment don't think of themselves as white, black, Latino, Asian, women, or men. They are American gun owners. It's as simple as that. They don't pay any attention to labels the left-wing liberals and the media try to stick on us to keep us separated. Well done, American gun owners, wherever you are. Illinois is one of only 14 states without term limits. Illinois policy has created a documentary that highlights the influence an officeholder can wield in the absence of term limits. Michael Madigan is the longest-serving House Speaker in the United States. He has been Speaker of the House in Illinois for all but 2 years, since 1983. Madigan, the documentary, can be seen at select theaters around Chicagoland and is now available on YouTube as well. For theaters, showtimes, and tickets, visit michaelmadigan.com or use the links on our Facebook page. I did include the link for the YouTube page. Join On Target Radio at the Villa Park VFW Gun Show, Saturday, November 19th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Admission is just $5. The following Safer USA class is at our facility in Waterman. Saturday and Sunday, December 3rd and 4th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on register.
You know, I think we're actually going to end on time, too.
It looks like it.
That's kind of cool, don't you think?
Sure.
Okay, not that cool, but it works.
It's the internet. We could do whatever we want.
That's it. We'd like to thank you for finding On Target Radio in its new podcast format and for taking the time to listen this evening. Tonight was the beginning of what we hope will become a long-standing tradition, so please spread the word. We appreciate your support.
We'd also like to thank our new engineer and announcer, Eric Allen, and our sponsors, the Will County Grassroots Division of the ISRA, the Illinois State Rifle Association, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
And finally, we hope you'll listen again next week when we'll have more red meat issues that affect your life.